The NHL Draft Lottery is just days away, and the San Jose Sharks have the most ping pong balls in the hopper to get that number one pick. JD Young of Locked On Sharks joined us to discuss that and the offseason outlook for San Jose. All that and more on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gil Martin here. Welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you can get new episodes as soon as they drop. Game off, we got to talk more about Monopoly Go. This fast-paced game lets you team up with friends for tournaments to unlock awesome prizes like unique stickers for trading, cool playing pieces, and hilarious emojis for taunting your friends. So download Monopoly Go, now free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. And with Game On, I am happy to welcome back to the show the host of Locked On San Jose Sharks, JD Young. And tough season for the Sharks, but now hopefully that pays off. The draft lottery just a couple of days away. Talk to me about the Sharks' thoughts as we head into this big day for all the teams that did not make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, as Bill Parcells once said, this is why you lift all those weights. This is why you lose all those games. Put yourself in the best possible position to get the first overall pick, and hopefully put yourself in a position to draft Macklin Celebrini, the wonder kid from Boston University, who has ties with the Sharks. He's a former junior Shark. His dad works for the Golden State Warriors. This is why you lose all the games. And while it's not going to solve all the problems for the Sharks, it's a huge piece, potentially grabbing Macklin Celebrini, who won the Hobie Baker as a 17-year-old. That's the crazy thing about him. He's 17. He doesn't even turn 18 until August, and playing against college players, most of them, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old guys. What Celebrini did and what he would potentially bring to the Sharks, it would be huge for a team that needs an continued influx of talent going forward.
So what about his skill set excites you and NHL scouts?
I think for him, it's his ability to play a two-way game, which I think is underrated, especially as a 17. Again, I cannot stress this enough. 17 years old kid. He maybe doesn't have the projection of, like a Connor Bedard from last year's draft, but I think he's going to be a 1C. Like, he is a bona fide 1C potential player who is going to make his teammates better. You see he has an amazing shot, but I think a very underrated aspect is his passing and his ability to kind of lift a line. And you saw that a lot at Boston University this season, where he would do a lot of work and then all of a sudden just make this nice little pass and find a wide open teammate all the way across the ice. He plays a physical game for a guy who's not overly big. He's 6'1", 190 right now. Not the biggest guy in the world, but you can see he's not scared to play a physical game. And as he adds some more, kind of muscle to his frame, I think he's going to continue to fill out there. But I think he's just going to be such an all-around player that is able to, again, drive a line and make his line mates better, which is, again, the Sharks just need quality pieces right now.
If the Sharks don't win the lottery, I mean, they can only fall so far back in this process. Who are some of the other players they may be looking at if they don't get that ping pong ball coming up on Tuesday?
Yeah, so they worst case scenario is they would fall to 3. That's if 2 other teams or jump them in the lottery. But if they are picking second or third, it'll be interesting to see what Mike Grier does there. The Sharks don't really have an answer for like that number one defenseman in the pipeline. Shakir McMillan had a really nice season in the AHL, but I don't know if he's like a team's their one kind of number one defenseman going forward. But this draft has a lot of questions at defense. Like, everybody kind of has a skill set. You kind of like it, and you have some holes that they need to kind of work on. So I could see them potentially going with whoever they think is the best defensemen in the draft. You of course have Ivan Demidov, who has been tearing it up in the MHL, which is kind of the Russian juniors. But there's always the Russian factor with him. Will his game translate? Is it kind of another question too? As he's very, very spectacular with the puck. But again, there's always those questions. How else can he kind of help out? I could also see him going with a player like Caden Lindstrom, who's a 6'5", almost kind of the Quentin Byfield type model where you can see very, very raw. He's going to need some years, but once he kind of hits that ceiling, like you're getting a one of a kind type of player. So the Sharks, if they don't win the lottery, there's still plenty of amazing options for the Sharks to add to their draft pipeline with that either second or third pick as a worst case scenario. So I know it's not as exciting as last year's draft when you had like Leo Carlson and Fantilli and Will Smith and Connor Bedard, but this year's draft is still very, very good at the top. It's just, I think, a little bit more, it just depends on what you're looking for.
One thing that the Sharks are still looking for is a new head coach. Talk to me about, what are they looking for in a coach, and maybe some candidates that you think they might be looking at?
That's the big question for San Jose is what type of coach. Mike Grier, in his last kind of press availability, said they're going to be pretty open and have a pretty thorough search in their as they look for a new head coach. If I had to kind of put odds on it, I think Ryan Warsofsky is probably their front runner right now, the Sharks assistant coach. He was won the Calder Cup with the Chicago Wolves a couple years ago, interviewed for this position 2 years ago when David Quinn got the job, but got a position on the staff. Known for his development, his ability to work with younger guys. I could see them if they wanted to go that route. We'll need to be able to kind of grow with this young group of players. David Carl has been thrown around, the University of Denver head coach, who's just been having an amazing program there. If he wanted to make the jump to the pros, that could be a potential. I've heard Todd McClellan. There is going to be a wide net, I think, for Mike Grier. And we've seen he's going to try to make sure that he gets the right person in here. And I don't think he's really too worried about timelines. I also wouldn't be surprised if he's maybe kind of waiting to see what happens with the draft lottery, because if you could dangle the potential Macklin Celebrini coming to your team, and then Will Smith signs your ELC, kind of makes the job a little bit more, I think, enticing for a coach, knowing you have two guys, a potential number 1 overall pick and a potential number 4 overall pick joining your team. I think brings a little bit more energy to the team. But I don't expect this decision to happen anytime soon. I think this could be a long drawn out thing that we're maybe looking at the end of May, beginning of June, to be honest, before we have a candidate decided.
One of the things that general managers usually do when they're looking for a new coach, they hire a guy who's the opposite of the guy they just let go. So using that criteria, how would you describe, who that would be coaching wise?
I know that's always like the dating thing, right? You date a blonde, you got to date a brunette, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, you find somebody else. I actually think they probably going to try to find someone who's continues to be a player's coach and is that whole development coach. I know David Quinn, he coming from the college program, put into a very tough situation this year, right? But it kind of seemed like maybe his system didn't fit the players, and you saw that as the ice, the team kind of on the ice this year was one of the worst team in the NHL, one of the worst teams when it came to goal differential that we've seen in the modern hockey. But I think that I wouldn't be surprised if they do kind of go a bit younger, looking for a coach, again, who can grow with this group, who's going to be a very young group again, right? You're going to have William Eklund, Fabian Zerlin. Mario Ferraro is kind of going to be like the old guy at the ripe age of 25, 26. And, you do have some veterans like Mikhail Granlund and Mark-Edward Vlasic, but the core of this team is going to be very, very young again. I expect to find a coach who can kind of help these young guys grow and develop and kind of hit their ceiling.
Any other big moves or targets for this team position-wise to get better for next season?
I think Mike Grier is going to continue to let this thing kind of happen naturally, right? They've doing a good job of clearing up their books with some of the trades that they've made. They're still going to be going through a little bit of that pain this year with some of the dead money that's on the cap, but I think they're going to be somewhat active in free agency to try to add some guys who can help, again, mentor some of these young guys. But I don't see them big game hunting this year. I don't see them going for like a Sam Reinhart or I know the Mitch Marner trade sounds really fun if that potentially happens. But I think, though, with Greer, he knows another year of kind of pain with hope to see a little bit of building off of last year. And then next year, that 25-26 season, when you can really maybe start to kind of make a jump. So again, I plug in some holes here, finding some guys, but I don't think they're going to try to slow down the progress of their prospects who are going to be starting to hit the Sharks here really soon.
All right, JD, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they can find the podcast and where they can find you on social media?
Of course, you can find the podcast wherever you get podcasts and watch on YouTube as well. You can follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter at MyFryhole.
All right, JD, thanks so much. Always a pleasure, and good luck to the Sharks at the draft lottery.
Thanks, Gil.
Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.